Listen, men don't cheat. All right, now that I got your attention, let me explain. All right, not all men cheat. All right, yes, there are some men that unfortunately engage in this behavior all the time. All right, who it's a life for them. It's what they believe is acceptable in relationships. But I want you ladies to understand that not every man walks that path. Not every man is trying to cheat. Not every man believes that cheating is okay. But you need to start to understand what types of men will more than likely cheat on you. All right. So I'm going to lay out what you need to be looking for. And let me say this. It's not a 100%. Nothing is 100%, right? But these are at least red flags that I do believe increase the chances of it happening. And you probably are best suited to address, or it is best for you to address them if you want to make sure it doesn't go down the path of infidelity. All right. So let's get right to it. Number one. Oh, and before I say number one, let me just say number 7 on this list is a big one. Huge. So I need you to watch all the way to number 7 and click that subscribe button real quick, just so you can always watch my future videos. All right. Now, number 1 on this list is a man without purpose. Now, I know you probably weren't expecting that one, but let me explain. Let me first start off with a quick story, all right? I had a client one time that I was coaching. She was overseas, international client, and she was having infidelity issues with her partner. She had just had a baby several months ago, and, she was trying to figure out what she should do. And at first it was one-on-one, and so we talked about things, but then eventually he ended up coming into the sessions, all right? And she was willing to sit down with me and be very forthcoming. So we talked about it. He acknowledged that he had cheated, and we try to figure out, okay, what's the issue here? Is it something lacking at home? Is there something you wish were different? What is it? Do you just have a strong appetite for women? And he was like, nah. And at first he couldn't explain. He's like, I don't know. I just kind of did. I kind of just fell off the wrong track. And I said, okay, no, something's not right here. So we dug deeper, and I noticed that I'm not going to say what profession he was in, but the profession he was in, I could tell he was not really happy there. I could tell that he was doing it because it was just the thing to do, all right, to make a living, but it did not fulfill him, all right? And so to get to the point of this story, what we found was the fact that he did not have purpose in his life. And please understand, success does not equal purpose. So don't confuse men doing well for themselves as having purpose, all right? So even though he was doing okay, there was no purpose in what he was doing. So there was still a void. And what was happening was he was trying to fill that void the easiest way he could, flirting with women. Because flirting with women made him feel good, made him feel better about himself, all right? Though his initial intention was not to go out and cheat. Believe it or not, for some of you, because I know some of you may question that. He was not going out with the intention to cheat. He was going out to receive validation, all right? But then what happens, unfortunately, is you start getting fed that validation, and that flirting starts to get a little deeper. Now they start to push the envelope a little bit more, and then before you know it, now it's getting into a sexual thing or becomes a sexual thing, all right? So for him, and what I have noticed for a lot of men, is that the lack of purpose, not that it 100% means he will cheat, nor does a man having purpose mean 100% he will never cheat. But I will say that when a man has purpose in his life, he has more to lose. And because he has more to lose, he is less willing to play with fire. He is less willing to cross certain lines, all right? It can still happen to the best of people. Because I know some of y'all think cheating is just who the person is. No, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as I go along in this video. But the point is, even the best of men who have purpose, it can happen, but it decreases the chances. And the same way, but when he does not have purpose, it increases the chances because there's typically going to be a void. And women are the easiest way to fill the void, all right, if you're capable of getting women. So that's why this is kind of a red flag to be mindful of and to understand why it's so important for people to find fulfillment in their life, for people to eliminate these voids, whether it's through purpose as well as through healing. Because a lack of healing can also create voids, can also create that need for validation from others, which again can start off as just wanting validation and flirting and attention and turn into having sex and cheating and all these different things. So it's definitely something to be aware of. So a man without purpose is the type of man who is the chances of cheating gets a little bit higher. Say it like that. All right. Second on this list is a man who lacks discipline. All right. So when you're dating a man, when you're getting to know him, you want to pay attention to, has he established any kind of discipline in his life? Now, I would argue that no one is perfect discipline-wise from top to bottom in every way, shape, or form. But what I have seen be consistent is that those who don't know how to draw a line in their life in different ways tend to cross that line in many ways. All right. So for example, if this man does not know how to have a limit to his drinking, that's a flag. If he's not disciplined in drink, it's not even the fact that he has drinks. He can have a drink. But if he has no discipline in even his drinking, all right, not only does it show, again, a struggle to draw a line, but also getting drunk can lead to behaving badly anyway. So that's a double negative, so to speak, all right? If hell, the way that he eats and takes care of himself, if there's no line that he draws, again, it shows a struggle to understand when enough is enough. Now, as I said earlier, and I'm going to say it again, does this automatically mean this guy would cheat? No, because he might lack so much discipline, he's too damn lazy to cheat. He's like, I don't feel like getting up and doing all that or hiding texts and all this stuff. He ain't disciplined enough to cheat right, so he ain't going to cheat. And there's no such thing as cheating right. Forgive me for saying cheat right. I'm sorry. He doesn't have the energy to cheat efficiently, okay? So he's not even going to bother with it, all right? But I do think it's something to be addressed and looked into, especially when that lack of discipline crosses the line or seeps into drinking and substance abuse and things of that nature. Because that, again, that's just probably going to lead to a lot of bad behavior overall. And you've got to be careful with that. And it's something that needs to be addressed and corrected beforehand. Now let's get to number 3. And number 3, the third type of man who will cheat on you is a man who says all men will cheat. All right. Now I'm a huge believer in this, and there might be dudes out there pissed at me for saying it, but I don't care. I'm just gonna be real. Like the minute a man says all men cheat, again, it is an increased likelihood that he is going to one day cross that line. Because understand the mentality. If he says all men include him. Like he's not saying all men but me. And who the hell thinks everybody else does it but them? No, he's saying all because he's essentially setting the stage for you to understand that this is a part of life, that this happens, and so that you should learn how to accept it and adjust to it rather than fight it. Because to him, it is a reality you're gonna have to face, all right? There are plenty of men, now, and listen, it doesn't mean, I always have to give you the other side. It doesn't mean the man who says all men don't cheat won't cheat on you, okay? I think we understand that. Some men can still, not say all men cheat and they're still gonna do it themselves. But if he does say it, I don't know how I could defend that statement. I don't know how I could sit here and say a man says that, but he ain't gonna cheat on you. He's not even considering it. You know what I'm saying? I think everyone is capable. I think it's possible, right buttons push, right circumstances. But I think that when you have the mindset of all people do something, then you're essentially saying you're going to do it too. It's the same way when people say, well, everyone has issues. There ain't a damn person that says everyone who has issues and they don't have issues. Like they're essentially saying to you, everyone has it, including me. And you should accept that reality and learn to deal with it rather than expect me to do anything about it. That's what that statement says. And that's the same thing that all men cheat says to you. So if he says that, yeah, he's probably gonna do it. Okay. All right, so now let's get to number 4. And number 4 is a two-parter that I want to throw at you. But before I give it to you, real quick, get your copy of He's Lying, Sis. All right, best-selling book. It's not about bashing men. It's about breaking down scenarios that women deal with, that there are a lot of deceit, or there is a lot of deceit and deception going on, and to help you how better navigate it. For some of you, it may be brand new information. It may be a huge eye-opener, or it may be a reminder of what you already know, or that push you needed, that confirmation you needed of what you already knew deep inside was going on in the situation that you've been facing. All right, so click the link in the description or in the comment section, or go to www.he'slyingsis.com. So now let's get to number 4. And like I said, it's a two-parter. Number 4 is he does not set boundaries with other women. And more specifically, he's unwilling to set boundaries with other women. And the reason why I had to throw in the unwilling is because I'm going to give a little room to the guy who may not fully understand what proper boundaries are with female friends. And I don't mean like female friends that he may have slept with before or their exes. I do think that there are some men out there who have women that are friends who the man genuinely thinks it's friendship, but does not realize this woman is hoping for a shot at some point, all right? And some of y'all women listen to this, you know what I'm talking about. That's why you don't like that man's female friends, because you know she's shady. You know she's waiting for her opportunity. You don't like her lingering around, and Lord knows what she's going to put in this man's head, right? But to his defense, I'm not saying he should allow that to happen. I'm not saying that's acceptable. He needs to learn how to set the boundaries. But the fact that he has not initially may actually be ignorance. All right? Maybe, and I don't say ignorance in a disrespectful way. That doesn't mean he does not know any better. He does not understand the whole dynamic, right? But if he cares about you and he's serious about you and you address it with him, I do believe that he'll be willing. All right, it may be a struggle, but I do believe he'll be willing. But you got to come at him the right way. You can't just be attacking him or accusing him, because if you're like, oh well, y'all doing something, he's like, no, you're crazy, you're tripping. He's gonna be less receptive to what you have to say. But that's why I used or threw in there, he is unwilling to set the boundaries. Because now it is one thing for him to simply be unaware and not understand. It's another thing for you to express to him in a loving, calm manner your concern, and he's simply dismissing it and shooting it down. Now, again, does this mean he has an intention to go out and cheat? No. But what he may not realize, or he may realize, is that his unwillingness to do so creates an open door. All right? And if he does not watch it, and I do believe this, let me say this, because I do think that women always feel like men who cheat are just cheaters, that they know what they're doing, they're going after it. And I'm not saying they don't know what they're doing, but what I'm trying to get at is not every man came into the situation with the intention to cheat. Some men really don't understand how if you allow this door to open, it can lead down this path. And it can lead to things happening in a way that you weren't planning to or expecting to. That might be hard for some of y'all to grasp, but that is a reality for some individuals, all right? And yes, people get caught up in the moment. So yes, in the moment, they still made a decision to go through with it. But I know some of you have been in a moment before where you got caught up in it and you make a bad decision. It can happen to people. But to get back to the main point, his unwillingness to set proper boundaries creates open doors. All right. It's either going to create open door, or it's a reflection of he just has plans to do some stuff. Like at the end of the day, some dudes ain't trying to set boundaries with any of their female friends because they're not actually female friends. Their booty partner. Booty partner is such a horrible phrase to use. They are They are sex partners. They are whatever, F buddies, whatever you want to call it, right? So either way, it's a bad sign. And in either way, it needs to be addressed. But remember, I said this is a two-parter. So the second part to this is he allows women to disrespect you. So it's one thing to not know how to set boundaries or to be unwilling to set boundaries, all right? And those boundaries can vary from couple to couple as far as what you determine acceptable and unacceptable behavior or where you feel like the line should be drawn. And that's something that a couple has to discuss because it's not going to be the same for everybody. But now when we get to disrespect, and he allows these women to disrespect you as his woman, that's a horrible sign, all right? And again, does it always mean it's an automatic he's cheating? No, but that's a hell of a door to have open. And allowing other women to disrespect your girl, that only brings into question, how much do you value your partner? How much do you respect your partner? And if you don't respect her enough or value her enough to defend her and to protect her from attacks from other women, then what is to lead me or anyone to believe that you wouldn't cheat? You know what I'm saying? Like that to me just kind of is going to lead into that at some point because there's no regard for respect of your partner. And cheating, you know, at some point can boil down to that. So I think when he's doing that, and some of y'all may say, well, what woman's going to allow that? Listen, there's a lot of relationships right now where women are dealing with men, and I hate to use the word accepting, but allowing or continuing to deal with this man despite the disrespect that she receives from him and from other women in his life. All right? And let me say this, because when I said other women in his life, something kind of hit me. Because there's disrespect from other quote-unquote female friends, acquaintances, whatever. But there's also disrespect from female family members. Now, the disrespect from female family members may be less of an indicator of cheating being on the horizon, but it's still a huge problem. And it still brings up the question of, well, how much do you really respect and value your partner if you allow any other woman, family and friends included, to disrespect her? That's a huge, huge problem. So it's definitely a red flag, definitely needs to be addressed, and if not corrected, cheating or not, he needs to be let go. Like if he's doing all that, done. That's it, all right? If he can't fix it, done. No point in continuing. So now we are at number 5, and I predict there are going to be some men who hate me for this one. All right? Number 5 on this list is a man who thinks it's okay to be sliding in the DMs. All right. Now let me give a little background here. Again, let me reiterate: these actions do not automatically mean the man will cheat, but they do present a problem. They do present an open door, and a lot of men, especially if he's a man, like if he's a man who lacks discipline and he's sliding in DMs, then what's to believe he will be disciplined enough to not go any further than the DMs? But even if he goes no further than the DMs, I think it's fair to say sliding in DMs is unhealthy, inappropriate behavior, all right? Unless you're sliding in for business, all right? I just have to throw it out there. Unless it's for business, that's different. But if it's not legitimate business, we got a problem here. But let's start here. Some of y'all may say, well, it's a problem if he even likes a woman's pictures. And that is your choice if that is an issue for you. And that's something that you have to discuss with your partner. The only reason why I'm not going to mention liking a woman's pictures as a type of man who would cheat on you is because, and maybe my perception is a little skewed, I feel like depending on the woman, she may never even see that like. Like the like is a very informal thing today. Unless she has such low amount of followers that she can actually even keep up, there's a very good chance she's not catching it, okay? And a like doesn't necessarily lead to anything. Most of the time, simply liking a woman, now if he's repeatedly liking all of her pictures, then we can say the liking of the pictures a little bit more, moving in that direction. But a like of a picture here or there, I don't feel comfortable saying that's really a sign, because I know plenty of men who will like a picture and they're not going any further than that. But again, that is your choice to determine if that's still inappropriate behavior. Now let's go to the next level. Leaving a comment on the post. A little bit worse than the like, but again, I question how far can the comment go unless it's a blatantly sexual flirting, trying to get at you comment, all right? Then that's different. But again, a standard, let's just say it's a praise emoji, the two hands type of thing, right? In a sea of comments, I don't see that materializing into anything. Maybe I'm being naive, so let me just throw that out there. But I just don't see that turn anything. So likes, comments, you can still deem it inappropriate, but I'm not gonna put that in, oh well, that's like leading to cheating behavior. But once we get to DMs, right? Once we slide into the DMs, that's a direct shot. That's a head-on hit. Like, yo, I'm here. I see you. See me. What's up? All right, like that's what's going on here. So to me, again, now is it possible for a man to do all that and still not take it further? It's possible. Yes, there are some men who like to flirt, and it may be validation. And I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying you should accept it. I'm just explaining that is a possible thing, right? But again, the problem is that is an open door, because if he flirts and slides in the DMs, even if he says, yo, it's harmless, I ain't trying to really get at her, I'm not trying to make anything happen. But what happens if she responds and says, hey, I think you look good. Like, I'm interested. Will he be disciplined enough to be like, nah, I was just trying to flirt, just trying to say hello. It's no big deal. Like, this is where it gets really, really risky. So DM behavior, messaging in the inbox, whatever, that to me is dangerous behavior, all right? And definitely something that needs to at least be addressed. Now, I'm just gonna throw it out there. If you are a woman who's like, it ain't a big deal to me, because it's possible there's some women who don't care, that's on you. I'm just throwing out things that are maybe typical behaviors, that may be signs. It's not a 100%, but yeah. DM sliding, that's probably a problem. Now we get to number 6. And remember, number 7 is a big one. So please hold on for number 7, all right? But number 6 type of man who will cheat on you is a man who hides you, all right? And in reality, if he's hiding you, he's probably already cheating on you. I'm sorry to laugh. Forgive me, because some of y'all may be dealing with that situation, and I don't want to make it a laughing matter. But unfortunately, yes, the hiding of you typically may indicate that he already had somebody else, that you are the side chick. So whether you call it you're being cheated on or cheated with, cheating is already occurring in the scenario. And if it's not already occurring, because maybe in some situations, this is just a reality, some men are not proud of who they're sleeping with. So they will hide that woman. They will not show that woman to the world. They will only meet in secret places and things like that. That's still a man that is not going to close off his other options. You know what I'm saying? If he's with you and he's hiding you, then he either doesn't want other women to find out about you more than likely, or he even if he's ashamed, that means he still wants something better. There's a lot of variables going on here, but the bottom line is, like, the behavior of a faithful man is not to hide his woman. Plain and simple. And so the only caveat to that, and when I say caveat, let me break it down further. I do think there's a difference between hiding in general and hiding on social media. Now, I am not here to say that it's up to you whether you're okay to keep your relationship off of social media and to keep it private, all right? I think that's the best way to do it, to be quite honest with you. I think that's the safest way to take it. I do understand the concern that when someone engages in that, what else are they hiding? Why are they hiding? So on and so forth. And I would argue with you, or I would counter that by saying, evaluate his overall behavior. Typically, the man who hides you on social media and is doing dirt, and again, I use the word typically because there's always exceptions to the rule. Typically, this man is showing other unhealthy behaviors. He's not giving you what you need. There's maybe neglect in other areas. It isn't just he's perfect in every way, but he only doesn't show you on social media. That's not typically the case of the man who is trying to do dirt, trying to be shady, trying to creep in these streets, all right? So I would then say to you, the guy who is loving you, pouring into you, he doesn't hide you in his world when you're out about. Family knows about all these things. But maybe he doesn't post you all over. And maybe he doesn't ask you to post him all over. It is a possibility that he is just one of those people that wants to keep it private, doesn't want people all up in y'all business. So have that discussion. Don't just assume that that's the issue. But again, evaluate the overall behavior, evaluate the overall treatment as to what's going on here. I do understand that, yes, you could have some guys who treat you great, hide you on social media, and that's because they are doing stuff. But I don't think we should just be jumping to that conclusion. It needs a more in-depth exploration of the scenario, of the dynamic overall, to determine what's really going on here and what is his motivation behind hiding you online. But in general, if he's hiding you, then yeah, that's a really, really bad sign. And now the big one. All right, I told you to wait for number 7. I need you to hear this. I want you, before you hear number 7, to take a deep breath, get to a really calm place. All right, fight the urge to be triggered because it's my trigger. All right, but just follow me. If you were willing to listen to the first 6, I need you to be willing to listen to number 7. All right. So the 7th type of man who will cheat on you is a man who is being sexually and emotionally neglected. Now listen, I know that people like to make it all about the cheater. And I'm in no way saying that cheating is okay. And I know some of you will say, well, if he's being neglected or if he has to cheat, why won't he just leave? Now, let's be honest here. Let's flip this for a second, all right? And I know this won't apply to all of you, but if some of you are going to be honest with me, think about this. You as a woman, you're with a man. Let's say you've been with him for 5 years now. Let's say you guys have kids, you have bank accounts together, you have an established life together, all right? And in year 5, whether it started in year 5 or year 5 was the point that it started to wear down on you the most, you have been emotionally neglected by this man. And even sexually, in the sense of actual satisfaction. Like, he may want to have sex, but it ain't never good for you, okay? So the sex ain't good. He's emotionally neglecting you. You bring this to his attention many times. He does nothing to correct it. It's always an excuse. It's you crazy. It's you tripping. It's this, it's that. It doesn't get fixed. Now, people could say, if you ain't happy, just leave. But we know in that scenario, it ain't that simple. I'm not saying that ideally, if you're gonna feel the need to cheat because you're being neglected here, and then you're coming across men who are trying to pour into you in the ways that you are not being fed at home, there is naturally a temptation to grab hold of that. And that temptation to grab hold of that can lead to, even if it was not the intention, it can lead to sexual relations, all right? And some people would argue it doesn't even have to get to sex for it to be cheating. But the point is, though it may be the right thing to do to leave before you cheat, I think if we're being honest, we understand it's not that simple, all right? Now, I say that, again, not to validate cheating. I say that to bring it back to the point of we've got to take a more serious approach or consideration of neglect in a relationship. So I made that example about you, but now let's flip it back to the man. You can't neglect the man, and let's start with sexually, but we're going to talk about emotionally because that's a big deal. You can't neglect the man sexually. And though I know many of you listening, may believe in sex till marriage. So whether you're putting this in the box of marriage, or if you guys are already sexually active in a relationship before marriage, whatever, you can't, once you cross that line and you being sexually engaging with each other, now pull that away, neglect him, and think everything's gonna be okay. All right. Now I understand some situations, medical situations, things like that happen, and I would argue that those scenarios, I've seen many of men be willing to be patient and understanding through things that are out of the woman's control. So it's one thing for it to be out of your control neglect. It's another thing for it to be blatant. You're just dismissing. It's the same way of the other example, the man dismissing the woman's feelings and you're dismissing his needs. You can't keep doing that. So an analogy I like to give, all right, is that imagine you're a woman and you have a child and you tell that child you can eat nowhere else but in this house. You will get fed in this house. If I catch you eating somewhere else, we're going to have a problem. All right. Day one, the child comes home. I'm hungry. Oh, I'm tired. You know what? I'll feed you tomorrow. All right. Day two, I've been so busy. You know what? I'll get to you tomorrow. Day three, day four. We are now on day 7. The child has not eaten. Child's walking home. Some person comes up to a child. Dear child, you look malnourished. Here's a sandwich. Eat something, please. Now the child knows, damn, I should not take this food. Because my mama or this lady said to me, the woman who takes care of me said, don't eat outside this house. But damn, I'm starving. Maybe a bite won't hurt. Maybe I'm just going to eat the whole damn sandwich. All right. Either way, now the child comes home and you say, how dare you? How dare you eat outside this house? But you starved them for 7 days. Now I'm just using 7 days. However many days is too long in your relationship for going without sex, that's between y'all. What I'm saying to you is, again, we can't neglect our partner, men or women. Even though we're talking about women neglecting men right now, it goes both ways. We cannot neglect our partner and think that's okay. And think we can make excuses for that and that should be accepted. But if they do something wrong, now it's all on them. That's not right. And we have to understand, we have to address these issues at the root. Now, yes, let me just say this real quick. I know some of you will say you could do all of this and they still cheat on you. Great. Yes, that's very possible. And sometimes you're just with the wrong person and there's no way around it. What I'm explaining with neglect, don't use that to validate neglect. It's one thing if you are doing your part and they still, okay, now we know they ain't worth it, leave them. All right, or we don't need to be in this relationship. But when we know we've been neglecting them, we need to acknowledge that. We need to have some personal accountability in that area. Now, I mentioned sexually, but I have to mention emotionally. I'll never forget one time a man said to me, because I had this plan to write a book all about cheating, breaking it down from every angle. And the man said to me, make sure when you write this book that you tell women a lot of the cheating does not start from sexual desire. It does not start from the man seeking out sex. It starts with an emotional void, all right? Being at home with a woman who doesn't believe in him, doesn't support him, doesn't pour into him in that way. And what happens in a lot of scenarios is that void is now being filled by another woman comes along who now pours into that man in that way. And let me tell you, there are some women out there who can they know when that man's not getting what he needs. And if she's hunting for a man, oh, she gonna work her magic, all right? So now she's telling, oh, you so amazing. If you were my man, you know what I would do for you. All this stuff. And it's drawing him in and drawing him in and drawing him in. And again, because a lot of men don't understand how to shut the closed doors before you get too deep in, how to catch yourself before it crosses a line, some men end up now finding themselves all caught up. And now that emotional fulfillment turns into sexual desire or turns into sexual willingness with that woman, which is why in some scenarios, y'all will notice where the man cheats on a woman and she don't even compare to the main woman, his wife or whoever. But it's because she was pouring into him in the ways that he felt the void. Now, again, I have to repeat, this is not to validate cheating. This is not to say it's okay, but I'm trying to break it down in a way that we can actually start to take a more effective approach. Because if I'm being honest, I do believe this perception of when they cheat, we just ignore the idea of neglect being involved here is sabotaging relationships. It's destroying relationships because you can't just put it all on them and not hold ourselves accountable for what we're supposed to bring to the table. All right. So all that to say, yes, I think that there are a lot of people who cheated, who thought and said out of their mouth, I would never cheat on somebody, and genuinely believe that. All right. But as I said earlier, circumstances, the buttons being pushed, the right type of vulnerability at the right moment can lead to very bad decisions. All right. And unhealthy behavior and open the door to cheating. And so, though there are men out there who live that lifestyle, who they believe that's what they do, and they probably will line up with a lot of the other things I mentioned earlier in this video, there are some situations where that was not his core character. That's not what he believes in, but there's a position he found himself in, and he's the line he found himself crossing. Doesn't make it okay, needs to be corrected, needs to be addressed. But we have to take neglect very seriously and understand that how that plays a role in our relationships going in the wrong direction. A lot of people have been cheated on, unfortunately. Infidelity is, I hate to say a common occurrence, but it is a common occurrence, all right? So many people have experienced this. It's hurtful, it sucks, and I hate to say, but it ain't going away, at least as far as it's going to happen in certain people's relationships, right? Not everyone's, but certain people's. And I think because of that reality, you have to become aware of the signs, the things that are telling you that your partner, this man, may be cheating on you. Now, I want to say this real quick. As I go through these signs, I don't want you to just jump quick to, oh, he must be cheating. And that's why I take time to really break things down, explain, because there's various angles to certain things. And we don't want to jump right to certain conclusions. However, these are common signs that can be very well meaning he's cheating. Now, I want to answer a big question that I always get before we get to the list. And that's the question of, do all men cheat? And the answer is no. All men do not cheat, all right? As much as you may be hearing various stories and you feel like you've heard all kinds of amazing women getting cheated on, it doesn't happen to everybody. There's a lot of relationships where the cheating never occurred. There's a lot of men who are extremely loyal, faithful men. Hell, there are men who are being treated poorly in their relationship. There are men being abused in their relationship, and they still have not cheated, and they still will not cheat, okay? And there's all kinds of various reasons why some do and some don't. And sometimes the person who isn't a cheater at heart, so to speak, finds himself in that position. Now, I know to some of y'all that's like, that sounds like BS. No, because it can happen to women too, right? Not everyone who ends up walking that path was someone who believed in that kind of a lifestyle, right? But there are tons of people where they fall on both sides of the situation. Now, another question I want to answer, but I'm gonna mention it now, but I'll answer it at the end of the video. And that's the question of, can a man still love you if he cheats on you? Now, we're going to put a pin in that. All right? I know some of y'all are anxious to hear that one, but let's get to the list, okay? So the first sign of a man who's cheating on you, and I'm sorry, real quick, you know, I put in the title what most women miss, but the reality is that most of y'all don't miss these signs, you overlook them. You rationalize past them. You fear having to face them and the potential reality of what they mean. So I do want to encourage you that a lot of this is me just reinforcing what you already know, but hopefully you'll have the courage to then address it and not run from these issues, okay? So, first sign is constantly picking fights with you that lead to him leaving, all right? So, again, when a man is cheating, he's trying to create opportunities to where he can go do his thing. Or, I mean, for some men, they already have it set up a certain kind of way. But when you have a man who's always picking a fight or an argument, and I've seen this happen tons of times. And again, the key is it leads to him leaving, because it's one thing for y'all to be constantly fighting, but his behind is right there in the house, on the couch, or in your room. Then we can't sit here and claim that he's doing it for the purpose of cheating. But when it always leads to, I need to leave, I need to go, and then he's gone for hours, right? He's gone for lengths of time where he got enough time to go do his thing. Yes, it is possible that he is cheating. Now, here's the thing. The issue in this dynamic, this specific example, isn't really, I don't really want you focused on, is he cheating, even though that's what the video is about. I want you to really start with, why y'all always arguing? Because if we can't fix the arguing, whether he's cheating or not does not matter. So basically, even if you guys are constantly fighting, even if he's picking some of these fights and it's leading to him leaving the house, and again, it's not 100% that he's leaving for the purpose of cheating. So even if he's leaving and he's not cheating, well, you still have a problem because y'all are always fighting. And there's always negativity in the household. So we have to get to the bottom, the root of why is this occurring? Because I see so many people get fixated on the bigger surface issue that they miss the root issue. And now, even if you fix the surface, so for some people listening to this, they might think the answer is, oh, don't let him leave the house after the argument, right? But that don't fix nothing because y'all are still arguing. You have to get to a place where you guys can have healthy discussions and communication with each other. And if that can't be achieved, whether you can prove he's cheating or not, he needs to go. Because there's no point in continuing in a relationship that's going to be so negative, so toxic, causing you so much stress. So yes, it's a sign, but be mindful of what you're really focused on when addressing this issue. All right, now the next sign that a man gives before he cheats is shady phone behavior. Now, some of y'all might be a little triggered because some of y'all the ones being shady. And some people think, oh, well, that we deserve privacy with our phones and we shouldn't have to share our phones with our partners and all these things. Now, listen, I think everyone's entitled to doing their relationship the way they feel is best. And if two people come together and they have agreed amongst each other that they want to have that level of privacy with their phone and they're okay with it, that's their choice, right? I will say one, I don't believe in that. I believe in phone transparency because I believe that it sets the stage for less secrecy, confusion, misinterpretation, assumptions of wrongdoing. And even though, yes, some people might argue, well, yeah, I've seen people give access to their phone and they're still cheating. Yes, that's still possible, right? But I still believe that at least having that foundation increases the chance of peace in the household. However, I'm going to focus more on it's not established that you guys are having this privacy that you guys are okay with. And one person just seems to, the man, act funny with the phone. Now, what's acting shady and funny with the phone, at least from my perspective? It's whenever there's a phone call, they got to walk out the room. They can never speak in front of you. Never. Sometimes, of course, or some situations, if you're watching TV, you don't expect the person to sit there and talk on the phone while you're watching TV is blasting loud. You know, if there's certain dynamics where it's completely understandable for someone to walk out the room. But when it's a constant thing, even in situations where it wasn't really necessary or called for, that's a cause for concern. All right. When someone is overly protective with their phone, you've seen these videos on TikTok or social media, and it'd be like little skits, and the woman gets the phone, the man starts like chasing her, or just overreacting. Like, though it's funny in that video, that's an issue. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a red flag. Like, why are you so acting scared? Now, for some situations, I'm just throwing this in there. Sometimes people aren't actively cheating, but they have what some would consider inappropriate things still in their phone. And there is an argument you can say of what people feel like they should have to delete and get rid of once they get into a new relationship, okay? And some people don't want to release and remove those things that they have memories of or they hold on to for whatever their reasons are. And that might be what they don't want to be seen and then ask to have removed. Again, that's a different video that we'd have to get deeper into that. But I'm just giving you the other angle in that scenario. But ultimately, anything that makes you feel uncomfortable can qualify as shady behavior. Because it doesn't have to necessarily be shady. It's the issue is it causing some kind of friction in the relationship? All right. And if it is, it needs to be addressed. Again, is it an 100% automatic he's cheating? No, but it is a common occurrence in situations where the man is actually cheating. So you have to be mindful of it. And real quick, before I move on to the next point, let me say this. You can't take issue with his shady behavior. Well, you can, but don't be a hypocrite and take issue with his if you're doing the same things. So I have seen some situations, both sides, of course, where one person is holding their partner to a standard of transparency and openness, but they're not upholding that standard on their end. And so if you as a woman are doing that, understand all you're doing is undermining your ability to bring resolution in that type of scenario. So practice what you preach, basically. All right. So now, another sign a man gives before he cheats is he's stopped trying to be intimate with you. So we got to unpack this because there's some layers to this, okay? Let me start with this reality. There are a lot of situations, and I will say I've seen this more commonly in marriage than in boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, but it can happen both ways. Where you'll have a situation where the two people are sexually active, everything seems to be going fine. There comes a point where the woman, in many cases, starts to be less receptive, all right? And when the man's making attempts to have sex, she's tired, she has a headache, maybe there's kids involved, and she's like, there's kids in the house, whatever. Either way, it starts a pattern of constant rejection of that man's intimate advances, right? And at some point, that man starts to give up on trying as hard to be intimate. Now, in a scenario like that, I think it's completely unfair to jump to he's cheating. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible that he is, and we'll get more into that. I'm simply saying that when the stage has been set to where he is being neglected sexually and there is constant rejection, it's another one of those we have to focus on the root issue. And sometimes a lot of men, they don't give up and cheat. A lot of men, and well, some people might consider this cheating, depends on who you are. But they give up and they start watching a lot of porn or more porn, all right? They start self-pleasuring. They find other outlets, but they're not actually going to sleep with another woman. Now, again, there are some people who consider porn cheating. That's up to you. Everyone sees that differently, right? And some people may even view self-pleasuring as cheating. Again, that is your perception, your choice on how you view that. But the point is, I want to make that it doesn't automatically mean he's going to other women. I feel the need to throw this in right quick. Also understand that getting other women and sleeping with women in general ain't some easy task for every man. Like, I think women sometimes think that men can just go out and snap their fingers and get some if they want. Some guys maybe, to a certain extent. But the average man can't. So for a lot of guys, when he's frustrated at home, when he's not getting that action at home, his outlet will be porn. His outlet will be self-pleasure. It won't be another woman because that takes a different level of effort. That takes a level of success to be had, as well as that takes a dynamic that some men don't want to deal with or may not even have the time for. See, it's easy to go jump in front of his computer and do his thing. It's nothing to go out there trying to make something happen with another woman, worry about getting caught, someone finding out. That can be very stressful for a guy, and he's not gonna go through all that. So all that to say, yes, it doesn't mean automatically another woman is involved, but you do have to consider what stage has been set? What has been the foundation that we have in this relationship for intimacy? Now, if the scenario is very different, where you guys have been intimate, everything's going great, You are receptive to him. And now he himself just out of nowhere stops. It's not you saying no to him all the time. It's not some constant neglect. He is now, if anything, neglecting you or not trying anymore. Now, once again, I don't want us to jump straight to he's a cheater, because there are mental health issues that could be at play. There are issues of impotency, okay? There are issues of even porn addiction that can have a very strong impact on his level of desire and willingness to be intimate with his partner, all right? And then I hate to say it, but it's a true thing. There is also the factor of attraction level in the relationship, all right? Meaning if, let's say, kids have come into play, or even not, let's not even say kids, because I know a lot of people, they're sensitive about that issue, and I'll say that for another time. But let's just say, time goes on along and we start changing. Maybe some people let themselves go, right? And the attraction starts to drop, okay? And with that attraction dropping, the level of desire starts to wane as well. And so, when it's that scenario, I do think, as far as the woman was receptive and now the man just starts stopping, I think we have to explore all those things I just mentioned, but there is a greater chance in that scenario compared to the first one I gave that he may be cheating, all right? And because he is intimate with someone else, he has less desire and willingness to be intimate with his woman. And sometimes, and again, I'm only explaining these things. I am not validating. I'm not excusing. I'm just explaining. I will say that I have seen a lot of scenarios where though the partner is receptive to her man intimately, she does not show up for him in the bedroom the way that he wants it, all right? So the certain acts that he desires, the certain energy that he wants from her, whatever, he doesn't get that from her. So it's like, yeah, I'll go in there, I'll lay down with you, we can knock this out, but she's not doing what he really wants. And so what happens is some men, yes, go outside of the relationship and they get those types of things that he wants in the bedroom from some other woman. Now, I know a lot of y'all gonna say, well, why can't he just leave the woman? We're gonna say that for another video as well, because some of these things are just so deep for us to have to discuss. But I will say this, leaving is not always the option in that man's mind, because one, in some scenarios, he's hoping things will change. In other scenarios, there's just so much more at play, meaning if finances are tied up, if kids are involved, years put in, integration into family, there's so much more that complicates the situation that for some people, they just feel like it's easier to do my thing on the side and keep this going versus to blow this whole thing up and try to find somebody else to be with. Again, just explaining, not validating. All right, so let's keep this going. And another sign men give before they cheat is constant gaslighting, all right? So simply put, when you're dealing with someone who's always making you feel like you're crazy, you're tripping, what are you talking about? What's going on? And like, you can call him out on certain things and he will have you questioning yourself by the end of that conversation. Hate to laugh, but I'm just saying, like, that's how crazy manipulative some people are, right? And here's the thing, though people may argue like gaslighting can just be a narcissistic trait, not necessarily he's a cheater, right? That's true. That's true. Some people are narcissists and will gaslight, doesn't mean they're cheating. However, I would argue that narcissism can lead into infidelity and cheating because the narcissist is about themselves. And the reality is that cheating is about fulfilling that person's desires. Like, a lot of people sometimes view cheating like, how could they do this to me? How could they betray me? But that person's mindset isn't about hurting or betraying you. That person's mindset in that moment is about fulfilling their desires, fulfilling whatever, their selfish perception of what I want right now versus what impact they may have otherwise. And in reality, in their mind, their goal is to hide this so that it doesn't have any negative impact, all right? So when someone is a gaslighter, when someone is a narcissist, they're more likely to think in a selfish way that says, I will ignore what this means and what this can do to my relationship. So there is somewhat of a small correlation connection, but it's not an automatic, a gaslighter is a cheater. And some cheaters ain't gaslighters. All right. Some cheaters are just blatant and don't care and just disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? And rather than gaslight you, will just ignore you. You know what I'm saying? And dance around stuff. But you do have to be mindful of that. But again, like in every other sign pretty much that I've given you, I really always want you to be mindful of focusing on the root issue, because whether he's cheating or not, the issue is, why is this man continuously gaslighting you? And if he is gaslighting you, what else is wrong in this relationship? Because in all my years of doing this, it is extremely rare to find a scenario where someone will do something like gaslight you or verbally abuse you, right? And that's all they do wrong. Like everything else is on point. That's not usually the case. Usually if we have that kind of issue existing, there's another issue that's lingering behind it. Okay. And we get so worried about and locked into the current or surface issue that we're overlooking the real issue that would help us understand why we either do not belong here or if this is actually a fixable problem. Okay. So you got to get to the root of it. And if that root cannot be fixed, let them go, because you don't have to be able. I think sometimes women get so fixated on, I have to prove he's cheating so I can validate leaving, versus I can validate leaving by the behavior he continues to show me. Like basically the mistreatment is enough. The gaslighting is enough. The shady behavior is enough. If he's unwilling to correct it, that is enough to leave. You don't need cheating to be what it is. And this is hitting my spirit, and I'm going to say this. I probably would have waited to the end of the video, but I'm going to mention it now. And I say it with love, in all seriousness. A lot of you have experienced cheating, and a lot of you needed to be cheated on. And I say that to mean many of you would have never left your toxic situation without it. All right. And you were holding on to a relationship that was not best for you. And you were doing what I was basically discussing, as in overlooking the root issues, fixated on the wrong things. And you needed something as strong as this to break you free from that relationship. And so as hurtful as it can be a blessing in disguise for those of you who needed a way out. However, I don't want those of you who are still in it to wait for that to be the case. I want those of you who know already deep inside you're not where you belong to find the strength that you have within you, that you just need to tap into, to walk away and do what is best for you, to lean on God, to ask God to guide you in this situation. Now, again, there's going to be some scenarios where people generally need to fix where they are at, and they will be fine. But there are many of you who know deep inside it was never supposed to be this man. You were never in the right place. And for you, I need you to be able to walk away. So let me get to the next point. All right. So now another another sign men give before he cheats is he says and believes that all men cheat. All right. Some may not like me saying that, but I'm just going to be real with y'all. If a man ever says to you, all men cheat, you can pretty much count on him cheating on you. Like he's basically, forecasting for you what's going to happen. He's setting the stage by letting you know this is what all men do. So basically when I do it, don't look at me like I'm different from the rest. Just stay with me because you're going to get cheated on anyway. That's basically what he's trying to convey. Okay. And so it's not only just he views all men as cheating. He also shows a belief or an ideology that doesn't see anything wrong with it. Because the reality is that some men grow up in a culture of cheating, grow up in a culture of having many women, right? And to them, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the lifestyle. That's what men do. And so you as a woman have to be mindful of when you talk to a man and he is willingly conveying that to you, because granted, some men will hide that mentality. They don't acknowledge that that's the way they see things. So I can't fault you if he's not being real with you. But I know of situations where men have been very straightforward with it, but the woman not register it for what it is and instead just believe, okay, well, maybe I'll be fine here. And it's like, no. Now, if you yourself, because just as some men grow up in a culture of cheating, there are some women who grew up in a culture of cheating, to the point where some women view cheating as all men cheat. This is just what's going to happen. And they're willing to accept it. I'm not saying you should, but what I'm saying is if you've made that choice and you're going to deal with this man who does it, that's what two grown adults want to do. That's on them. All right. But then there shouldn't be any problem when it happens, because this is what you said you're signing up for. But if you know you don't want that in your relationship, or you're not at a place where you can deal with that and accept that, then don't convince yourself otherwise. Don't act like, or don't ignore when a man is being pretty straightforward about his perception and ideology when it comes to being faithful in a relationship. All right, so here's another one. Another sign men give before they cheat is that he's very vague or doesn't talk at all about when he's away from you. Okay? So essentially, relationships require us to bring our worlds together, right? And be able to share with each other what's going on in our lives, at least healthy relationships. Those who keep their other lives too separate risk creating a huge conflict, because once your partner starts to hear about things, whether through other people, especially through other people or through social media, that you ain't telling them yourself, they start to feel alienated, they start to feel devalued, dismissed, and then they start to question, what else are you hiding from me? So when we want to have a healthy relationship, we have to be willing and able to share with each other what's going on in our lives. And so when we have a scenario where here's this man that whenever he is not around you and you ask him, well, how was your day or what was going on? And it's like, he don't want to talk about it at all. That's a red flag. Now, again, I say red flag and not automatic he's cheating, because we have plenty of scenarios of men who don't know how to open up, are just non-communicative. And to them, they may see it as, what's the point? They don't like that kind of small talk. How's your day? All these different things. So we don't want to automatically rush to it, but it's a cause for concern. And it's something to at least dive deeper into. Now, I do think this is one of those signs where you can't just look at this by itself. You got to look at this in combination with one of the other or more things on this list. I think that's when it makes it more a stronger sign of, okay, he's out there in these streets doing something. All right. Otherwise, I'm more willing to at least assume that, or maybe not assume, because you know what happens when we assume, but I'm more willing to give belief to the idea that he's just one of those types of guys. And I think you also have to be mindful of, okay, how open is he in general? Because if he's open and talkative about everything else, except for when he's away from you, now that's even a stronger red flag, right? But if he's just like that in general, then okay, that just might be part of his character. So it's just another one of those things to look out for. All right, so we got a few more, and I'm gonna try to run through these pretty quickly because I want to get to that question of, can a man love you if he cheats on you? So the next sign a man gives before he cheats is he starts paying attention more to his appearance, okay? Now, here's the thing. If this man has never been into how he looks and taking care of himself, and then out of nowhere, he's all into it, again, then there's cause for concern. Because I do think if someone's always been like that, then there's no reason to just jump to that conclusion. I also think that we have to be mindful of, okay, what else is going on in his life? Did he start a new job? Has he been trying to work on himself more in general? What's going on? But if none of those things are present, and all of a sudden this man who used to walk out the house looking like a bum now wants to walk out the house looking like, I don't know whatever, it's just looking good and looking smooth and on point all the time, then yeah. And sometimes it may not be a flat out cheating. It could be he's getting attention from women and he likes it. And this new attention he's getting has motivated him to take better care of himself because he likes the compliments and he likes the looks and all these different things. But that's still something to be mindful of, because a man who's not used to getting attention, all of a sudden getting all this female attention, it is easier for him to potentially cross certain lines because he's not used to navigating in that space. He doesn't know what it feels, and it's very easy. Not that he goes into it with the intention to cross those lines, but he gets caught up in it, all right? And next thing you know, he's doing things he's not supposed to do. So again, just another one of those signs to look out for and to address if it comes up. So now here's one, and I want to be very careful with how I present this one. But the next sign a man gives before he cheats is it's a mixture of past cheating behavior in maybe previous relationships or in your relationship mixed with the current signs. Now, here's the reason why I want to be delicate with this. I know some people believe once a cheater, always a cheater. I do not agree with that, all right? I understand that there are many situations where people have made bad decisions, have made mistakes. I know some people don't view cheating as a mistake, but I have so many stories and I wish I had more time to break them down, but trust and believe. There are some situations that are intentional. There are some situations that are mistakes. There's a lot more layers to it. But anyways, intentional or not, I've seen people turn their life around, so to speak. I've seen people go from, yes, there was a huge disconnect in that previous relationship that led to infidelity, but now they've healed past traumas. They're in a healthier, happier relationship, and they are so far from ever entertaining the possibility of cheating in their head. Now, of course, anything is possible. No one's perfect. It can happen. I believe with the right circumstances and the right buttons pushed, anything is possible. But that person is not in a mindset of, I'm going to be out here cheating and entertaining other stuff. All right. So just because it happened in the past doesn't automatically mean it will happen in the future. And that's why I said it's more so of a concern or a sign when the past behavior is combined with current behavior that's in alignment with potential cheating. Because now that's a cause for concern. Because I will say this, the person who has once cheated but does not want to cross that line again, wants to be better in that way, is going to be very careful of not engaging in behaviors like the ones I mentioned. Like if he's trying to make sure my woman doesn't think I'm out here doing stuff, he's going to be more open with his phone. He's going to be more transparent about where he's been and what's going on. You know, he's not going to want to create any kind of environment that leads to her thinking he's doing that. So if he does engage in those behaviors, that just to me says he's probably slipping and he's probably out here. There's a chance he's out here doing some things he's not supposed to do. All right. So last but not least, and I'll answer that question from the beginning. The sign, and this is not a sign a man gives, but it's a sign I have to put on the list. And that's simply your intuition. At the end of the day, I can give you all these signs and things to look out for. And I do believe, we have to always be willing to address things and discuss things rather than accuse and attack people. But at the end of the day, your intuition is your greatest guide. It is a blessing from God. And you've got to be willing to listen to it. Again, at the very least, I'm not saying your intuition tells you and just up and leave. Unless literally God's leading you to do that, then so be it. But at the very least, investigate. And not investigate as in snooping. And I know, I guess talking about it directly doesn't always give the answers, right? But I do think that's at least still the correct approach initially. It is better to first discuss it than to sit there dwelling in thinking and overanalyzing, because now, even if he's not cheating, you projecting that or you holding on to that idea causes you to bring an energy to the relationship that throws everything off. All right. Because I've seen situations where it wasn't actually the woman's intuition. It was her fear and her past traumas being projected onto her current man. And because she wasn't properly addressing it, but instead just looking for stuff, she was driving this man crazy and ruining the relationship with a man who actually wasn't cheating on her, being 100% faithful. So you want to be mindful of that. And before we wrap this up, let me answer the question. Can a man love you if he cheats on you? Yes. I know y'all gonna be like, Stephan, you are tripping. No, that's impossible. Hear me out. Again, I'm not saying every situation of a man who ever cheated on a woman is a man who actually loved that woman. What I am saying is, though it's an unpopular opinion or unpopular perspective that many will disagree with, the reality is that we're all human beings. And again, as I mentioned before, I have seen scenarios where bad decisions were made, mistakes were made, and they were independent of them loving their partner, and more so a factor of the vulnerable position they were in that moment, the mental state they were in that moment, the environment they found themselves or put themselves or allowed themselves to be in that moment. But it wasn't, I don't love my partner, because again, a lot of times when people cross that line, there's something else that's going on in that moment. It's about them. And yes, they may be being selfish in that moment, but that whole moment doesn't define everything about them and their partner. And this is why I say, again, people don't want to hear this, people don't like this, but I'm being real with y'all. When cheating occurs, we have to be mindful of looking at the overall picture. Because I always say cheating can be a symptom of something being broken in the relationship, or a symptom of a relationship that did not belong together from day one. All right. And when we're able to get to the root issues, we can see more clearly, is this fixable or not? There are some people who it's happened, they fixed it, and they're living happily ever after. They are better than they ever were before. They were able to overcome it. There are others where they try to overcome it and fail miserably. Why? Because they never were best for each other. It was never supposed to work. It was never going to work. All right. And then you have others that didn't even try. It just ended things and it was a wrap because, for them, they couldn't see themselves bouncing back from it. There's, again, all kinds of scenarios, but at the end of the day, I'm going to always tell you to pray. I'm going to always tell you to talk to God. I'm going to always tell you do not jump to conclusions, but address the issues, because the goal is healthier, happier relationships with the person that you truly belong with. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So there's a quote that I say, and it goes, if your absence isn't enough to motivate him, your presence never will. So essentially, if losing you, if you walk